Grab your coffee, mama. It's time for coffee, clients, and nap time. I'm Sarah Marie, and this is your guide to building a business that works for you and your family. Here, we'll dive into creating a thriving business that lets you be the hands-on parent you want while designing the life you've always dreamed of. So if you're ready to balance business success with family life and make it all work in a way that feels right for you, then let's dive in. Hi there, mamas, and welcome to today's episode of Naptime Chats. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to build a business that supports your life, not one that takes over it. Vanessa Layton is the founder of Profit People Systems, and she's not just a systems strategist. She's a mum who has lived the juggle. After growing and selling a 7-figure e-commerce brand while raising her 2 kids, Vanessa now helps other small business owners, especially us mums, to streamline, delegate, and set up the kind of back-end systems that create breathing room and profit. She's gone from 80-hour weeks and burning out to working under 20 hours a week with more profit, more time, and more freedom. And today, she's here to share how she did it and how you can do it too. So whether you're buried in client work, stuck in a cycle of doing it all, or just wondering how the heck other people seem to have it all together, this conversation's going to feel like a great big exhale. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for being here, Vanessa.
I'm so excited to be here, Sarah Marie. I can't tell you.
I am so keen to get into this with you and to hear all about your journey in business as a mum, as a business owner, as a phenomenal woman in business. So let's start with your story. Can you share what business looked like in the early days while you were raising your little ones, and then what led you into that initial burnout?
Well, I started my first business when my youngest was, I think he was probably about 2. And I started an actually it was a wholesale business to start with. And I was working out of my garage, as many of us do, start in the garage. I was doing deliveries around Melbourne. I remember really clearly that by the time my second one came along, I had a big meeting in Sydney and he was 3 months old. And I was literally sat there with this smiley little 3-month-old on my lap. And everybody was kind of not paying any attention to me. They were just paying attention to my son because he was like all these kind of big people around this boardroom table. I mean, that is totally like mums in business, isn't it? But, when you're trying to do all those things and you've got little ones of that age. So I remember going to the GP and going, why am I so tired all the time? And he was sort of saying, well, what is it that you do? And when I told him what I was trying to do, and he was like, I'm exhausted just listening to you, no wonder you're so tired. And I remember coming away from the GP and going, so he can't do anything for me. There was he couldn't give me not that I'm really a tablet taker or anything, but he was just like, you're exhausted because you are doing so much. And I think as, both my parents had their own businesses, and that kind of work hard to get where you want to was so ingrained into me. And I think, you're trying to run a business, you're trying to raise kids, you're trying to be everything to everyone. No wonder we burn out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious because you've said systems got you from an 80-hour week and low profits, which I know many of us have been there, grinding, doing the hustle, trying to make things work. And now it got you to under 20 hours and 7 figures, which is absolutely incredible. What shifted for you and how did you actually get there?
So I have this memory of one of my sons, and something happened at school one day. And he said to me, and I said, oh, why didn't you tell me about this? And he literally said to me, oh, I didn't think you'd be interested. You are always so busy. I mean,
Yeah.
I get just saying that chokes me up. And I remember so clearly that day standing in the kitchen thinking, oh my God, I have got this so wrong. And I know from that was one of the things that made me think I'm doing my whole family a disservice by doing this, I did have virtual assistants at the time. I did have some extra help, but I look back at myself now and I think you just had no idea. Because you're so stuck in doing what you're doing that you've got these blinkers on. You're just trying to keep moving, But what I did do was I got a business coach. And one of the things that she said to me, because I was saying to her, why is this so hard? Why am I doing, all of this stuff? And she said, as people, we keep going until it's too painful not to change. I said to her, okay, well, I must have a really high pain threshold because this is insane. But getting that help, getting that business coach who was like, and she was awesome because she was kind of no bullshit, that woman. I loved her. But she was like, you can't, you've got to stop trying to please everybody. You've got to get some boundaries into place here. And I mean, it's not something that happened like quickly. It definitely didn't. But what it made me realize was I was the one who was the problem there. So if
Mm.
I wasn't willing to change things, if I wasn't willing to look at things and go, okay, well, if this is going wrong, what's my part in this? It's not going to change. So once I had somebody who was helping me, who was kind of pulling me back into line when I kept going, oh, why is this still going so badly? But it was about like getting those boundaries in place. It was trying to stop being the good girl, getting the gold star. And then, starting to build systems and actually getting some help in my business. That was what changed.
That actually resonates really deeply with me because I've got my older two teenagers, and obviously I hustled for many, many years while they were younger. I was a single mum. The only way to make money was to be doing all that tough stuff. And yeah, that feeling when you feel like they can't come to you because you're always so busy, like all they see is the busy mum, not the mum that's there for them and supporting them. Like, oh, I felt that in my soul when you said that because I've been there as well. So I'm really
Yeah.
keen to hear from you, though, what that transition then felt like in your body and your home and your headspace when you moved out of that sort of real hustle, moving, working yourself, grinding into this space of ease and sort of business ease, I guess.
I think it's scary as hell because the only reason that you get a successful business is because you work so hard because, you're controlling all the things. You're the puppet master, aren't you? And as soon
Mm-hmm.
as you start to step back and get that help and actually trust other people to do things, letting go of that control it's super scary. I don't know about you, but I'm a real perfectionist. I want
Yes.
things done 110%. I mean, that's how we end up with the successful businesses, right? But learning to say, hey, can somebody do this at least 80% as well as me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
again, my coach saying to me, they can do it 80% as well. That's still pretty damn good. Let it go. But that feeling of, oh, I can't. But if you're not going to get that freedom until you give up some of that control. So how do you do that? Where is that balance there? And I think that as you start to do that and you do it with guidelines in place and you do it with standard operating procedures and stuff like that. But once you see that your team are not only like doing it 80% as well as you, but are doing it better than you and faster than you because you're so scattered, like that's amazing. And it's so awesome to watch your team growing and, becoming more confident themselves and then of course you get more time and more money and it feels amazing.
All the good things.
All the good things. But it is scary. It is really initially that real fear. I think that's one of those things that stops us because we're like, oh, this is so hard. It feels really scary. I can't do it. You've got to keep going. You just have to keep going.
I feel like you're talking to a mirror, like of me, because I've been there and I had a business coach that said to me, 80% of what you do is 99% of someone else's effort. She said, you're doing 120% in everything, Sarah. So
Yeah,
let someone else do it at 80% of what you're doing, and that'll be 99%. No one's going to notice the difference because you are overachieving to such a high level that it's
exactly.
unsustainable.
Exactly. And that's how we end up burnt out, don't we? Because we
Yeah,
can't go,
absolutely.
that is good enough.
Yeah, that's the perfectionist coming out. I'd really love to break it down even further now because I'm loving learning more about how you've done it and actually talk about the how. So, what are the key changes that made the biggest difference? Like, what did you actually do? Because it's all nice and say, well, I got support and I let go and it's really good. But, like, we're all practical mums listening now. So, what's like, I did this and I did this and this is the change that it made?
So I remember I read a book called 168 Hours by a woman called Laura Vanderkam. And she was into time tracking and, getting really intentional about how you plan and spend your time. And this was years ago. And that book was such a revelation to me because I was just like, oh my God, how much time do I waste doing? I don't like saying wasting time actually, but just not using your time intentionally.
Mhm.
And I do that to this day is when I'm feeling that things are a bit out of my control, I time track and I go, what am I spending my time on? What do I have to keep? Because that's the only things that I can do. What should I stop doing? And, what can I automate or outsource? And once you start to work out, okay, these are the things that I don't necessarily have to do, then you start to get help. But one of the things that I think is the big issue is that we go, right, I need help, so I'm going to hire help. But actually that all falls in a heap because you haven't got those foundational things in place. And the foundational things are your personal productivity, which is where getting really clear about how you spend your time and time blocking and, planning out your ideal week, which I know never goes ideal because we have children, we have lives. But it's that personal productivity. It's getting things like boundaries in place, which is like communication boundaries, saying no to things instead of saying yes to all of the things. Then it's that building the systems. And once you start to build those systems, then you get the help in because then you know that people are going to be able to do the stuff that you want them to do it in the way that you need them to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Given that we've just discussed perfectionism and you and I have both put our hands up and said, yes, that was us, what was the hardest thing to let go of during that process? And how did you work through letting go of that perfectionism and the control? And on top of that, maybe a bit of the guilt side of letting someone else have to do something that you felt like was your job or your responsibility, like that whole process around that.
Again, that's really hard. And when I first started doing this, and I was very transparent about this with my team. So I had local team and virtual team at that stage. And my local team, especially, I was really, funnily enough, my virtual assistants were much more on board with this. But with my local team, I got really intentional about how I was spending my time. And I was really clear with them saying, okay, I've always said to you, come to me at any time for anything. I'm closing my door now for 2 hours in the morning. And I am going to be much stricter about what my role is and the jobs that I should be doing in the business. And again, I have to put my hand up here. I don't think I communicated that in the best way to my team. We're ideas people and, we come out with all these and we're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. But communicating that a little bit better, I think, would have made that transition easier. As it was, I ended up losing a team member over that just because I was saying to her, I've always done all the things. I've always jumped in whenever and wherever you've needed me to. I'm not going to do that anymore. In hindsight, that was a really good team member to not necessarily keep on. She was great at what she was doing at the time. But moving forward, she wasn't going to be the right person to move the business forward. And that feeling of what was working for me isn't working now and isn't going to work in the future when there are people involved. Again, that is a really, really difficult thing to do. But this is a business. It's not a hobby. Doesn't mean that we get to be assholes. It does not. But what it does mean is that you have to say, is this working for the business? If it's not, you have to find a way to let that go and move on. But that's
That is
really
so
hard.
true. Very hard. Absolutely, that's hard. All right. So for
Yeah.
all the mums in businesses who are still doing all the things, wearing all the hats, where would you suggest they start?
Track your time. I'm such a big advocate for that. Like just being really clear about what's important and what you're going to spend your time on. But the other thing I would say there too is taking time to reflect and say to yourself, how can I make this easy? Instead of complicating it all the time, like how do I make this as easy as possible? I actually have a really good example about this. I was walking with my husband yesterday afternoon and he has started posting to LinkedIn and he's trying to post 3 times a week. And of course, he's busy on something at the moment. And he said, oh, yes, I haven't posted to LinkedIn, for the last couple of weeks. I was like, hon, you've got to be really consistent about this. He's like, oh, well, I don't always know what to post. And I was like, well, let's make this super, super easy. At the end of your day, have a think about who you've dealt with that day, what you've worked on, who you've talked to, and just think, how did what you were doing help them? And that's your LinkedIn post. And he was like, wait, what? I was like, there you go. 5-minute system for your LinkedIn content. That's it. You're done. That's literally your system. And he was like, oh, okay. So it's saying, well, that's how you make stuff easy. Like it doesn't have to be super complicated, does it?
No.
And then the other thing that I would say, is track your time, make things easy, and document as you go. Because when you're documenting, so record yourself doing a job, get the transcript, throw it into ChatGPT and get an SOP. You're building your systems as you go. So when you are ready to hire, your systems are already there, or at least the basis for your systems.
I love that. I actually use a program, and I'm not affiliated with it, but I'm going to throw the name out there, called Scribe. And it actually tracks and takes screenshots as you're doing things. And when I first brought on my first VA, I had no SOPs in place. And as my business has grown and expanded, I've started to really quite rely on it. So I'll do something for a client, get Scribe to create me a mini SOP. I edit it back because not everything comes out perfect, as most
Yeah.
programs don't. And it's literally got everything I need then to say to someone, here's the SOP, let me know if you've got a question. Like, it's really that simple.
Perfect.
Can you tell me more about your time audit toolkit and how it's helped the mums that you've worked with? Because I think now that you're talking about obviously auditing time being such a great tool that we use, I think that'd be a really great segue into telling us more about that kit.
So I think it's literally just about tracking your time and finding out like where you're spending all of your time. And it is such an eye opener. I always say when I work with clients, because they're like, oh, I really don't want to spend, 3 days or a week. Cause I always say a week, you want to do that 7 days, get your weekends, get your evenings, your mornings. You want to track it all because you are going to be amazed at how much time you can immediately get back by going, wow, I'm, even just on a personal basis, like I'm going to the shops 4 times a week. What if I did a weekly shop and suddenly there's 2 hours back in my week? That's just from a personal point of view. But then, when you will, you start to find all of the interruptions in your day, all of the things that you're doing over and over again that you could batch, or again, that somebody else could do for you. I time track regularly. I time track at least once a month because it's how I keep myself really, really focused, because it's so easy to let that slide, But once you do that and you're looking at that, and you're looking at it with the point of view of how can I improve here? How can I get intentional? But not judging yourself. If you're going, oh, I've just spent, I can see that I've spent 4 hours doom scrolling on Instagram every night. It's not a judgment. If that's what you want to do, great. But if you're saying to yourself, I never get time to read a book, and you're scrolling Instagram 4 hours a night, cut it down, just 2 hours on Instagram and 2 hours reading a book. You know what I mean? It's just about getting really intentional, really clear about where you actually want to spend your time. And it is so important.
Yeah, I think just knowing where your time and energy is being spent, a lot of us don't realize. And I put my hand up, I am very much a doom scroller. I say it's because I work in social media, but a lot of the time it is the doom scrolling. So for our listeners, we will pop the link in the show notes for the time audit toolkit so everyone can have a little bit of a look at where their time's being spent, non-judgmental, just so that we're very aware of where it is and where, as you said, time and energy can be spent in a more intentional way. I want to move on to another topic now. I know you've worked with a lot of women in business. So what are the biggest roadblocks and patterns that you see when it comes to time growth and that ultimate burnout that many of us end up in?
I think one of the biggest roadblocks is not asking for help. We feel like we are somehow less than. There's still judgment about getting a cleaner at home. That's not okay, to be judging people for buying back their time. But even if it's not something like getting a cleaner, or, it's that sense that we have to do it all ourselves, or somehow we're not actually achieving it ourselves. Like the success is not ours if other people are helping us.
My next question was going to be, why do you think so many mums feel stuck in the belief that doing it all is the only way forward, which really is just probably an extension of what you were talking about then anyway?
I think we're conditioned to, especially as women, we're conditioned to please people. So, we don't ask for help. We don't accept help when it's offered. And that is such a big mistake because we cannot do it all ourselves. We literally can't. It's like the thing about, you can't, what is it? It takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to build a business as well.
It takes two villages if you're raising a child and building a business like the mums that we're talking to at the moment. You've lived the juggle and you've rebuilt something better. So what would you say to the mum listening right now who's close to burnout, they can feel themselves almost there, but just doesn't know how to come back from it or where to begin?
Okay, so I would say, first of all, come here. I'm going to give you a giant hug because you probably need that right now.
Oh, yes.
And stop. Just stop and just breathe. You know, go for a walk, even if it is 10 minutes. Get outside, take some deep breaths, go back, work out where you're spending your time. Do that time audit, go through all those things that you do in your week and ask yourself, is that really important? Like, I just can't say this enough. You've got to get intentional about how you're spending your time and what you're doing. So for the work stuff, as you're looking at where you've spent your time in the week, like, go through everything and say, look, is this actually going to grow the business? Because if it's not, stop doing it. Let it go, Ask yourself, can I get help? As you're looking at things, go, can I get help with this? And this is why I say to time track for your whole week, because as mums in business, raising kids, everything bleeds in. We don't have that same 40 hours in a week to work on our businesses that even like the most well-intentioned, supportive husband does. Our weeks are the amount of time that we've got. They're so different, So get that help, like ask for that help. The other thing I would say too is lower your standards. Literally, does your house have to be clean from top to bottom every single week? No, it does not. I used to say, I don't think my standards can get any lower. I would have dust bunnies in the corner of my my living room that were bigger than my cat.
And the flip side of that is, if the house being that clean is that important to you, hire a cleaner.
Absolutely. Or, if doing that yourself is the important thing, great. But it means you're going to have to let something else go. Like, you've got to be realistic. You cannot do all of these things. So what is important to you, let that other stuff slide. And what's important to you is not going to be what's important to your husband, or to your mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was a mad cleaning freak. My own mother, totally not. So I was always so much better at just going, yeah, the cleaning stuff, bye-bye. But then for me, like having a properly cooked dinner on the table every night, that's an important thing to me. So I always found a way to make that work. Like, I can meal plan for a month out, like literally. I could do that in 20 minutes because I've done that for years, because that was what was important to me,
Yeah, I do. I'm very keen to hear about what success looks like for you now, and how does it differ from what you once thought it really needed to be?
I actually don't think it has changed. It's always been about people, family, travel, even throughout all of the crazy years of my business. Somehow I managed to, because my husband is English, so his parents were in the UK, and we managed to get back to the UK at least every 18 months, even though my business in the early years would just stop when I took that time out. That's always been really important to me. So I don't think that's changed, but what has changed is my ability to actually enjoy it, to appreciate it, to switch off. As I said to you, we are digital nomading at the moment. So we're in Spain, and my husband and I, we're still working on our businesses, but we go for like long walks every day. We're traveling. We've got one of our kids with us at the moment, and playing cards or playing board games with him every evening, and not being on my phone all the time. That ability to switch off has changed. And I think that's, as you get older, you really do start to realize what the important stuff is. And that's making sure that your family's happy and making sure that you have those connections with those people that are so important to you.
I think that's a really great way of looking at it. No matter what stage you are in business, just making sure what your priorities are underpin everything that you are doing and everything that you're achieving. All right, I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you because that's quite fun. What's your favorite system, tool, or platform that you swear by?
To-do list, task manager. I can't live without a task manager. Not necessarily one in particular. And actually, that's something that I often see as well, is that clients of mine will be changing task managers all the time. And I'm like, choose one, use it, trust yourself, but make sure that you're using that. And I think my other thing would probably be Google Suite. I don't think I could survive without Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Sites, all of those, because you can run them on your phone, your iPad, yeah. Google Suite,
I'm a
task
Google girl.
management. Yeah.
All right. What's something you no longer do in business and you definitely don't miss?
I don't miss working in a cold warehouse in a Melbourne winter.
I'm curious, do you still have a warehouse that other people work in, or your business has now obviously evolved? You no longer have that
No,
component of the
I don't.
business?
I sold that business 2 years ago. So no, I no longer have the warehouse. But yeah, I definitely do not miss those. Oh, because I really feel the cold. Yeah, I don't miss that at all.
Oh, I feel the cold warehouse or no warehouse. So I feel that absolutely. All right. What is your biggest piece of advice for a mum in business who is perhaps just starting out and wondering if it's all even possible?
It's totally possible. I think what I would say is give the gift of accepting help, because people love to help. You know yourself, when you help somebody and you think, that was really useful for them. You feel important, you feel wanted. We love to help other people. It gives us a warm glow. And I know for myself that it took me years to realize that accepting help, it's not a sign of weakness. And it's a real gift to say to somebody, thank you, I would love your help, and be super gracious with your thank yous afterwards. But also, if they don't offer, ask for help. And if they say no, that's about them. It's not about you. But yeah, get really good at accepting help, and ask for help, outsource it, hire help, as soon as you can afford it. In fact, hell, even slightly before you can afford it, get some help, because that's the only way that you are going to be able to grow a successful business and do all those things and be there for your family as much as you want to be.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom, Vanessa. I felt it to my soul today. I've absolutely loved this chat with you. Let us know, though, how we can connect with you, especially if my listeners want to learn more about your story or what you do, or connect in with you, maybe even about working with you. So where can we find you?
Well, I'm at profitpeoplesystems.com, and that's my Instagram handle as well. So if you wanted to find me on Instagram, look me up at Profit People Systems. That's it.
Perfect. I will pop those links into the show notes for all my listeners, because we're busy mums and we don't always have time to go search. So I'll pop the links in for everyone into the show notes, and I'll pop the link in to that time audit toolkit as well. Again, thank you so much, Vanessa. It has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today.
Thank you. It's been a joy and a delight to talk to you, Sarah Marie. Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining me on Coffee, Clients and Nap Time. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mum who's ready to build their dream life. You can also join our Facebook page or Instagram to stay connected every day of the week. The link is in the show notes. Just remember, you've got this, and I'm here to help every step of the way.